This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com, and today I have a wrestler that's a diva. She's wrestled in over 9 countries. She's the current DOA UK Women's Champion, POW Germany Women's Tag Team Champion, and first ever Maritime Women's Wrestling Champion, coming to us from Moncton, New Brunswick. Maddison Miles, how are you today?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
And you're back in Canada now. How long have you been back in Canada from your travels?
I've been back for about 3 weeks now. Everything's been a little crazy. So I was away from home for 14 months living over in England. And I am extremely happy to be home and getting to know, there's so many new students here now. It's just absolutely crazy. It's fantastic.
Yes, you're at a wrestling school, and I understand in New Brunswick, unlike other parts of Canada, they're actually allowing some smaller wrestling events. And there is a show coming up December the 10th that you want to tell us about. So why don't we get that out of the way now? What's this show coming up December 10th?
Absolutely. So December 10th, Moncton Lions Club, Maritime Wrestling Academy is having their second show. So I wasn't in attendance for the first one, but I will be attending and part of the second student show. The students are working so hard. I haven't seen such dedicated students in such a long time. We get classes, they kind of come and go, but the kids this time around have been so consistent and so precise, and they're all working incredibly hard. We're doing a big seminar tonight, getting everybody ready for the show. My partner Charlie and I are doing a seminar. We're trying to kind of pass along as much knowledge as we can and kind of help them get ready for the show. So on the show, we have the main event is a women's tag match. So it is myself and our student Jana against Chantel, which is another current active IHW wrestler, and one of our other students, Mia Malik. And we also have a battle of the big guys. We have Charlie Winston versus Kirk Obey. And then what I'm really, really excited to watch is the very first ever Maritime Wrestling Academy championship match. And we have 2 of our hardest working students going up for that one. It's Bailey and Sam Shields up for that title. So those 2 boys especially have been working so hard, and they deserve it. And I'm so excited to see how that match works out. It's just such an exciting show. And like I said, everyone's been absolutely like busting their butts to get ready. And it's so exciting. It's so cool to see.
Which one is the Battle of the Giants? Because I understand there's 2 large wrestlers competing on December 10th.
Yes, so that one is Kirk Obey and Charlie Winston. They are they are the guest match of the show for the men. They are 2 rather experienced wrestlers on the show. So they aren't students, they're kind of our guest match, but that is our big guy versus big guy, the 2 really experienced guys against each other. So we kind of have one guest male match, and then we have a guest, Chantel and I are being the guests for the female portion of the show.
So for fans that live in the Maritimes, and I know we have a bunch that watch this channel, where can they get tickets? Do they just show up and get them at the door?
Yeah, so you can either get tickets at the door upon arrival. I believe they're $12 a ticket. You can message me, you can message Chantel. If you know any of the students personally, you can get them through them, but people are more than welcome to message me, and I'll get their tickets sorted.
So I guess you must be involved in the behind the scenes of the event too, putting the whole event together above wrestling on the card.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, just in the short period I've been home, I'm trying really, really hard to be involved with the students as much as I can, because I always think, I might not be the most experienced person ever, but I feel like I do have a lot of knowledge that I can help out and sort of give. And to me, it's really important, because I lose so much time with these students because I don't live here anymore, that when I come back, I try to make up for it as much as possible. So it's really cool. Peter Smith does a lot of involvement in the student shows. He kind of holds down the fort all the time. One of our wrestlers as well, Titus, very well known in the Maritimes. He does so much for these guys. I know Chantel herself really, really helps, especially with the girls. So like I said, I come home and, I feel like it's really important for me to try to be there and help out as much as I possibly can. And then, try to show the students that, even we're still paying our dues, we're still trying to show respect as much as we can. And you have to be there for everything, be available for anything. And the more kind of skilled and open you are to doing whatever you can, the better you are for the business,
Now, Peter Smith, the fans know him better as Brody Steele or Brody King.
Yes.
He's wrestled Big Cali in India, or the Great Cali, sorry, and he's had a big career over in Europe, and he's based in the Maritimes. I don't know why he was never in WWE because he seems to have had all the tools. He's a giant of a man with a good head on his shoulders. But how has he helped you in your career? Because I know you two have worked together closely.
Absolutely. So something I just figured out the other day is that Peter and I have known each other for 16 years. I'm only 20 years old. So we've known each other for 16 years. And for me personally, Pete is someone who has always protected me. He's always been there when I've needed someone for professional opinions. But the thing that I love the most about Pete is that my goal as a wrestler is to get out and do as much as I possibly can, like as much as humanly possible. And for me, Pete is the best thing I have to that. Pete is the best role model I could ask for, everything Pete does, I want to do, and more, to be fair, but I have to get as good as the people I love to even get farther than that. And, Pete's always been such a good trainer, and that he takes it so seriously, but I think it's great because you have to take it seriously. And if you're brought up to not take it seriously, then you never will. But Pete's always been there for me, and I'm very, very grateful to have him involved in my wrestling career for sure.
Now, I think I saw a picture of you a few years ago at a show when you were a kid on one of Joe Dunlop's shows, a bit of a controversial character in the wrestling business, but an entertaining character nonetheless. So I guess you've been a fan all your life.
Yeah, I went to my very first show in 2004. When I was 8 years old, I was working music. I was working the merch tables, the door. From 2009 to 2011, I did charity work with all the different wrestling companies in the Maritimes. We did like $5,000 for charity in those 3 years. My dad is the whole reason why I'm involved in wrestling. He always loved it. He was always a big fan. And we just went to every show we possibly could within 9 hours of where we lived. And eventually, when I was 15, they were like, if you want to train, you've been around so long, you can. And I was the first full-time female around here in 9 years. So it's just been an absolutely incredible, amazing journey.
I'll throw in a few fan questions here and there. Wrestling fan wants to know, who is your dream opponent that you want to wrestle?
I'd say I always get stuck between three. So if we kind of look back, I'm a natural kind of Trish Stratus fan. Everyone loves Trish Stratus, don't they? But for the history, I've always loved Trish Stratus. As a kid, my absolute favorite was always Natalya, Canadian girl, born and raised. I just absolutely love her. So definitely Natalya. And then my third one, very modern day, big Becky Lynch fan. So big dream matches there.
Well, I know my good buddy TJ Wilson watches this channel, so maybe Natalya might watch you. Jefferson wants to know, who is your Mount Rushmore of pro wrestlers?
That's a very good question. It's really interesting because I never really followed the style, but someone that I always just as a kid absolutely loved was Jeff Hardy. If you had to ask me as a kid, my absolute favorite wrestler, Jeff Hardy. Style turned out to be nothing like him, but loved Jeff Hardy. Big Kurt Angle fan, big Shawn Michaels fan. And then I'd probably put like Natalya and Trish up there with them for sure.
Very good. Now, I know that you are a champion, as I mentioned in your introduction, over at DOA Wrestling in the UK. Could you tell us a little bit about that promotion? Because we're starting to cover some UK wrestling as well.
Absolutely. So DOA was one of the first promotions that I worked for when I went over to the UK. The team there is incredible. The people there are incredible. The promoters are incredible. They really gave me a lot of opportunities when I started out there, and then they had enough faith to kind of, I ended up getting their title, and they've been extremely supportive, and it's been really nice working over there. They're based, they do a lot of shows in Great Yarmouth, in England, and Ipswich and Cambridge, but they're absolutely phenomenal to work with. Very, very kind, very great people.
Have you ever worked for World Pro Wrestling that's out of Gloucester, England, or have you ever heard of them?
I have heard of them, but I haven't worked for them, no.
Okay. we were supposed to be covering their October event, but that got canceled. But maybe next year we're supposed to be working with them a little bit. I think this guy might know you because this seems like a question that only someone with inside information might know. But Sean McDonough wants to know what you think of Doug Robar. Did you have trouble getting paid from him? I have no idea who that is.
What a random question. For me personally, I like Doug Robar. We have definitely had our ups and downs, but my partner Charlie and I work in the mental health field. Charlie is he has a very kind of invested situation into mental health. So we understand sometimes things happen, you know, we all go through our struggles and our troubles, don't we? And at the end of the day, Charlie and I have a very different kind of opinion on wrestling, and obviously we're really, really high on respect. And at the end of the day, he's always paid me what I've asked to be paid. He's always taken good care of us. But people take advantage of the guy a lot, and it ends up making him look a little bit silly. And it's very unfortunate because deep down inside, Doug Robar is a very, very good person. Just sometimes people struggle to see that, and you know, rumors fly around like crazy. But personally, never had any issues with him. Like I said, he's always taken good care of me. So,
what company is that he's involved with?
Oh my gosh, Doug Robar's promotion. What's Doug Robar's promotion? Wrestle Nova Scotia. That's what it's called. Wrestle Nova Scotia. They run one show. Like I think they've done 2 tours with like 4 matches on the tours or something like that. Very like random kind of one-off shows. And I think that's kind of the trouble, is that it's not a consistent sort of reputable in terms of consistent promotion. So I think a lot of people sort of just see it and, you know, it's not as professional as it could be, I think.
In the Maritimes now, I know Mike Hughes has a very successful promotion. Is that probably the biggest promotion in the Maritimes?
Mike Hughes is incredible human. What he's done, so Mike lives in Prince Edward Island, and he has his promotion, Red Rock Wrestling, there. And literally, I think he has got it down packed. You know, he does things for the community. He does things for the Children's Hospital. He basically has that island wrapped around his finger, but it's because he works so hard. He knows what works. He knows what doesn't work. Everything he does is based off professionalism, and that man has got it absolutely figured out. And I feel like, funny enough, Mike and I had a conversation yesterday about how all I really want when I have enough experience and get older, and eventually become one of the people with more seniority around here, is try to make the rest of the Maritimes the way that Mike has PEI, because he's got it figured out, you know. And if I literally said yesterday, if Mike ran the entire territory, everything would be fine. The matches would be great. Like it would be top notch, pristine, you know.
I don't think WWE has come to PEI since the 90s. I remember it used to be a regular stop. Do they often come to the Maritimes at all anymore? Because I can't recall the last time I've heard them coming there, but I know they used to still come to Halifax and a few of the bigger cities.
Yeah, they did. They normally, if they come now, it's Halifax, Nova Scotia, and then St. John, New Brunswick. But I think it's pretty much about every 4 years, because I remember as a kid, I'm pretty sure it was like 2008, 2012. I know they did like 2 years relatively close, but I'm pretty sure it's just about a 4-year gap, so like nothing. So when it comes to town, people go crazy, you know.
And I think the last TV taping they would have done in the Maritimes is back when Hulk Hogan was Mr. America.
Right.
So I think actually we're hearing in the news now that they might be getting rid of live events altogether. That could be a great thing for maybe a regular Maritime promotion to pop up again in other promotions.
Well, and I think too that, you know, one thing that I've kind of always said as well is, when I talk to people a lot about like my history and who I love in wrestling and those sorts of deals, that as a kid, I remember if I went to school and someone said, "Oh, I like wrestling too. I like John Cena. Who's your favorite wrestler?" I'd be like, "Oh, Brody Steele. Oh, Titus." You know, I would say local wrestlers, because as a child, I was so invested in Maritime wrestling. Like that was my everything. And I think as a child, I was a lot more entertained by live wrestling than wrestling on TV. And I did watch it on TV, but I was definitely more focused on kind of what went on right in front of my face, the people I knew, that I grew to love. So I think if they did stop house shows and if WWE didn't come here, because they're not going to do tapings here like ever. But if they did stop it, I mean, it's a huge market here. When you see WWE shows come to town, the lineups are down the street for blocks and blocks and blocks. And half of those people don't know that that wrestling locally exists. But if they did, you know, we know there's a market there for it, for sure. So I think it could definitely be a positive.
Now, PWI lists, everyone has their own opinion on it, but it's good that you were number 97 of the top female wrestlers in 2019. I'm going to guess you were happy to be in the top 100.
Absolutely, absolutely. So last year it was actually 93, and then this year 74. So it was I know everyone has a different opinion on it, but I was that kid who every time PWI would come out every single year, my dad and I would drive store to store looking for the magazine. So the child in my heart was just absolutely starstruck with it. At the end of the day, you know, everyone has their opinions about if it's fake, if it's, everyone has their opinions, don't they? But I am so honored and so grateful to be a part of it. And the amount of people who ended up reaching out to me because of the magazine, you know, I think is really cool. So it's obviously a crazy amount of promotion in itself, but I'm extremely grateful. I love it. I appreciate it. Like I said, it's been a huge part of wrestling for me since I was a child. So so honored and so grateful.
It's definitely good promotion. Wrestling Fan wants to know your opinion on hardcore or death matches.
Not my style, to be honest. I don't mind a good hardcore match. Love it. Death matches, I think there is a time and a place for them. I think there are wrestlers who love to do them. Not my style. But no hate towards it because people like what they like. They like their styles. They like to do their different gimmicks and stuff. So honestly, like, you know, whatever floats your boat. Not particularly my style. As I said, I can love a good hardcore match, especially to be in one. But yeah.
The only thing about death matches is those guys aren't paid very well, and I've never heard of that many companies that actually test their wrestlers before these guys go and participate in that. So they're highly dangerous. Sean Shamrock again says, when do you see yourself cracking the top 10 female wrestlers in the world? Is it going to be in the next 5 years, 10 years?
If it's going to be, it'll be the next 5 to 10 for sure. For sure. Absolutely. I'd say between probably 5 to 10. Thing is, like we were saying about death matches as well, is that I always have that mentality of I'm just so young that I want to wrestle until I literally can't wrestle anymore, you know, want to take care of myself and whatever. But I think that if I was going to make the top 10, I think it would be between years 5 to 10 in the future for sure.
Shane Stevens says Mike Hughes is the president of PEI. Could he run for the premiere of PEI at some point?
100%. I feel like Shane asked that because he knows that I would say yes. But 100%, you know, it all goes back to what I said. Mike is great with people, great with children. He's an honest man. You know, I look up to him so much. And like I said, the way he has that island is incredible. And I think he definitely could run for sure and win.
Now, I don't quite understand this, but Shane, again, is asking the line difference between DM and HC. That's something inside, I guess. Maybe you could explain to us.
Can you repeat that? Sorry?
He says, well, Shane Stevens, who I think knows you, says, where's the line difference between DM and HC? DM. I don't understand it. Maybe
he'll hate me if I don't know that inside joke. He's going to come say it to me, and then I'm going to be like, oh, that's what it's supposed to be.
Mike wants to know your favorite bizarre WWE superstar growing up. Was there someone with an unusual gimmick you found entertaining?
Well, like I said, I always, as a kid, I really liked Jeff Hardy, even though I knew that our styles would never be the same. He was always like the person that I'm like, oh, you know, he's this crazy, intense high flyer. And that's not going to be me, but I love him.
Oh, Shane is clarifying himself. Death match and hardcore. Well, for me, I will just say death match is like garbage wrestling, pure like gimmicks, no reason, and hardcore maybe could be stuff. It's more of more traditional wrestling. But let's hear your opinion.
Yeah, so for me, I kind of consider like hardcore street fight sort of the same thing, using weapons, but death match is when there's just blood and light tubes, and I I'm someone who I don't think I would ever touch light tubes, to be honest. But that sort of stuff that just makes you really cringe. It's not really my thing. But like I said, good street fight, hardcore, basics, love that stuff. Light tubes, not so much.
The light tubes, by the way, just for safety reasons, so indie wrestlers could know, the stuff inside light tubes can actually cause cancer. So
Yeah.
it's actually more dangerous than the breaking of those tubes yourself. Somebody wants to know your opinion of Jeff Hardy's Willow gimmick.
To be honest, I preferred a little more old school Jeff Hardy. Didn't think there was anything wrong with it, but I'm a little bit more classic old school, I'd say, for sure.
Danan wants to know, have you ever suffered any major injuries in the ring?
I have. So in 2016, I had my hand broken. They always say keep your hands closed on the mat. Someone tripped over my hand, stepped on it, and it just broke in the middle. I tore my rotator cuff in 2016. That wasn't fun. And the only other bad one I've had is I suffered from a major concussion in 2017. You can watch that match on YouTube. That's Maddison Miles versus Kobe Christ. A brutal spike head bump, clean concussion. They thought for sure that I had broken my neck when I got to the hospital. Luckily I didn't, but that was the most serious and like the injury that's kind of I would say kind of affected me the most in the long run.
Halifax Pit Rat wants to know why being part of the firm is your greatest accomplishment in your professional career.
Why being part of the firm? Well, it's the firm. There's not much more to say than that. Dave Boyce is literally my best friend in all of professional wrestling. We have such high standards, such high values. We think the same, we act the same. I just absolutely love Dave, and when Dave kind of had this idea of the firm, I was like, wow, this is brilliant. Why didn't we think of this sooner? And I just like to cause trouble, to be fair. So being part of the firm is just the best. Being best friends with the owner is the best too.
Kayla wants to know what has been your favorite match that you've been involved with in your career so far.
Favorite match I've been involved with. I always say, I hate this question because I have a few. So for me, when I was being brought up, Caitlin Diamond and Chris Hicks did so much for me coming up. Caitlin Diamond just always just was there in terms of teaching me basics and, all the really, really basic good stuff. Chris Hicks was kind of the person that would always take me to the next level. So we did an I Quit match, would have been back in 2016. That was like the first match I ever had that I was like, oh my God, this is how I feel like I should have probably felt in the matches before. But that was like kind of one of the matches that I was like, okay, I think that kind of took me up to the next level. I wrestled, someone really amazing like Kelly Klein. I love in England, two of my favorite people to work, Lizzie Evo, Mercedes Blaze. They're fantastic. And just two other matches that really come to mind for me was my street fight with Chantal at IHW last September. And I did a 5-way scramble match last September as well with Charlie Winston, Big T, Chip Chambers, and Chris Hicks. And that was so much fun. Absolutely loved it.
There's a fan on here that wants to know your opinion on Chelsea Green injuring her wrist again. I guess she broke it during her debut match for NXT, and now again she's broke it on SmackDown this past week.
Yeah, so I think genuinely just feel really bad for her. I can't even rate myself on a scale of being close to her, but when I suffered my concussion was when I was kind of doing the best in wrestling. I was in the best shape. So I can't imagine how it feels to be on such an important level like she is right now and suffering an injury like that. And I'm so sorry for her. It sucks. And I hope she has a fast recovery.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but I posted one of your pictures that you sent me with the belts from behind and you looking backwards. It had about almost 800 likes on our YouTube stories. How important do you feel like the sexuality aspect is of female wrestlers getting over? Because you see all the top, like most of the top ones, that's a big part of it. But there's a lot of, especially Canadian independent female wrestlers that really don't want to go there. So
absolutely. I think it's all about taste. I think it's all about different people. I do think there is an important aspect to it. For me, you know, for that photo, for example, where I'm turned around like that, for me, that's my asset. Oh, look, there's Pete there.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, nice to see you. There's the man that fought Great Khali in front of 70,000 fans in India.
And I'm still kind of dizzy from it.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I can't complain. I work a night shift, so I'm just kind of getting up. So it takes me about an hour or two to actually get up, right? Like what are we called now? Homo erectus, and move around. I'm more Cro-Magnon man at this stage of the day.
Maybe you're old.
Perhaps.
You're looking lean.
Not really lean, but I'm strong. I'm really training hard. I got my deadlift up to 600. I'm back on the squat rack. So yeah, for my age, I'm actually feeling pretty decent in the gym these days.
Do you have anything to say about this young lady since we got you on camera?
Yes. Let me pull a chair up.
Uh-oh.
This could take a while. Oh, no. I think that Maddie, from the time she was 15 years old, has become the biggest star in the Maritimes. I don't think there's any intelligent way to argue that, since there's a bump on ticket sales every show that she's at. All the fans know her. She's kind of got a broad appeal outside of the industry too, especially because of her story, being so young and being considered the first to do a lot of things around here. So, my daughter goes to middle school, and Maddie's a household name there, and we're 2 hours away from her home city. So yeah, Maddie's had a huge impact on wrestling here, and she's kind of carrying the flag for me and Mike Hughes now of going outside of the Maritimes and really, really pursuing this. When she's said and done, whether she's got $1 million in the bank or 10 cents, she won't be able to look back and wonder whether she actually gave it her all, because she's given it, she's living it. And Devin, you with your trips into Puerto Rico and England, like you know what it's like to just say, okay, I'm going to take this chunk of my life, and it's all about wrestling, everything, no stone unturned. And that's what she's doing now at a very young age. I mean, how old are you now, Maddie?
20.
So you've been basically traveling the world since you were 18?
Yeah, I mean, I went overseas for the first time, but wrestled in other countries when I was 17. So
see,
wrestling
crazy.
For 5 years, and then internationally for 3.
Think about how young 17, 18 is to be, you're still living at home essentially, but you're not. You're traveling the world. That took a lot of guts, and I really admire that in Maddie. And it's funny because about 3 years before that, when she just started training, I remember Dave Boyce was doing an interview with me, and he said it doesn't look like any Maritimers are really picking up the mantle of what you and Mike Hughes and Rene Dupree and Robert Maillet have done, and really, really giving it your all for wrestling and traveling the world. And I said, well, maybe Maddie will be the next one. And I wasn't sure, but she certainly has been. So we're all proud of her, and she's not just good at getting to places. She goes to places and gets over because she can work.
When we say it's like a career, isn't it? It's like you said, investing their whole life into it.
Yeah. And at some point you may decide that's not your job anymore. That might be, who knows, but that might be 30 years from now. But, while it's your job, you could just give it your all.
Thanks, Pete.
You're welcome.
I think we have the Bambi Killer watching this right now, who I know.
Hey, Chris. First, we'll attest to it. She became a big star in Germany immediately. She won a world title tag championship over there, and he liked her right from the start.
It's one of the absolute that is probably my favorite promotion that I've ever worked for. The amount of professionalism that they have, and the fact that I always know that when I go, for me, I feel like I'm the small fish in a big pond. I know that I'm surrounded by people I'm going to learn from people who are, 10, so many years above me. And I always just know that there's so much knowledge and in that locker room that I'm so grateful for that opportunity, for sure.
Yeah, I'll mimic that. It's my favorite promotion that I work for now. And they've probably taken years off my life from beer consumption because when we go out and you get the beer in the big steins like this, you know, the next day you're thinking, geez, I feel awful, but I only had like 7 beer, but the 7 beers are this big. So.
Not wrong.
Are you retired now?
Devin, I just stopped in to say a quick hello. I'm kind of on the run, so I'll let you back to the new star here.
Are you retired though? I wanted to know because I seem to recall there was a rumor floating around that you might be doing the behind the scenes stuff now and stepping away from the ring.
I'm not doing any behind the scenes stuff, to be honest with you. I've got even my involvement in this wrestling school. I would say it's Titus and Chantal that run the school. I kind of get my 2 cents worth in, but no, I will never wrestle in the Maritimes again. Probably not in Canada again. Just that I know that my bump card's almost full, so it's only international stuff that pays well. So it's basically the simple math is I don't leave the house now unless I come back with a mortgage payment. So if it takes me 2 shows to make the mortgage payment, or 1 or 3. That's what, you know, I've got a certain time frame. I'm not going to be gone for any longer than a week ever, and I come back with a mortgage payment at least. So those are my terms, and if anybody if that means I never wrestle again, I never wrestle again. But I've got a funny feeling I've got about a dozen international tours left in me.
Now you work with the great Kali's company over in India. I'll just throw one more question at you before you have to go.
Sure.
What's something about the great Kali that people would be shocked to know?
How kind he is. You know, he's a 7'2" Robin Hood. You know, Kali will literally walk into a community and talk to the poor people, the homeless people living by the rivers, and you know, washing their babies in the river, and you know, having no indoor plumbing, scrounging for food. He'll walk into those communities or send his people in to survey them and figure out what kind of industry they would like in their town. And he will literally go in and build an industry to put all the people to work. You know, and yes, he's a capitalist and he makes money from it too, but he's literally taking people out of tents and putting them in apartments and homes. And that's why he's so popular. They say he's the second most popular man in Germany, in England since Gandhi. And it's because of his kindness. So a lot of these people know of him, not necessarily as a wrestler, but as this big, giant, kind man that takes people out of tents and gives them jobs and hope. So he's actually he's a beyond fabulous human being.
What's the saddest thing you saw over in India? Because I know there's great sides to it, but there's also some really poverty-stricken areas.
I've seen a lot of babies walking along, well, you know, not walking, but with you know, without diapers and shit running down their legs. I've seen a lot of people carrying family members because there's no wheelchairs in the country. Wheelchairs are very, very difficult. They don't have their health system isn't fully socialized like us. So, you know, if you're getting by on a couple bucks a day and you've got a crippled brother that needs a $5,000 wheelchair, you don't get the wheelchair. So that brother's wheelchair is your back and you're his wheelchair for life. I see that a lot. You know, people walking through traffic with a handicapped person, you know, and very often they have the same facial looks. So you can tell it's a family member. So basically, some people's life is in indentured servitude to a handicapped sibling or son or family member of some sort. It's horrifying when people begging for food in the streets. They're always yelling at me because I feed there's a lot of stray dogs, and I don't know how much you love animals, but I'm always feeding the stray dogs. And I did a movie in Bollywood a couple of years ago, and there was like 20 stray dogs that were hanging around, and I was getting extra. I was asking catering to bring me 2 meals instead of 1. I lied to them and said because I need 2 meals because I'm big, and I would give 2 meals, 1 meal to the dog and eat the other meal myself, or dogs. And that pack of within 2 weeks, that pack of 20 dogs was about 50 dogs, and everywhere I was, they were. And people kept saying, "I told you not to feed them." And so they're hungry, and you know, I'm leaving in 2 weeks. They'll still be a nuisance to you, but at least they had 2 happy weeks, eating pie every night.
Rex has a question for both of you. I know Peter's got to go, but I know Peter probably has something to say about this. He wants to know how you both have coped with the lockdown situation.
It's destroyed our booking because honestly, we talk all the time because as we're two of the only people who really leave the Maritimes now, we were just talking, I think yesterday, about how like I lost to Germany, to Austria, Finland, to Scotland, to America, Mexico, and then Pete was like, "Oh yeah, the
13 internationals I lost, and most of them are places that I've been before, but they pay well, so
Right.
financially. But one of them in particular was supposed to go to South Sudan, and I've always heard the best safaris are in South Sudan. They were going to book me on a safari, and that when that date came along, I thought, shit, man, when do you get a chance to go to? That's the thing about wrestling. If you really pursue it, and if you can offer return on their investment, then you get to go places that you normally wouldn't get to, or most people never get to.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it sucked, but I guess in the Maritimes here, there's almost no COVID, so we feel safe. But it's weird, man. I hope the vaccine fixes everything, and a lot of people are afraid of the vaccine, and I don't want to take it, but if it means traveling or not traveling, I'll take it.
Yeah, and that's what they were saying, is that they think with the vaccine it might not be mandatory, but if you want to travel and you want to do stuff, then you might need to take it. So it'll be interesting, I think, but it's definitely been a bummer. I don't think I really realized how much I wrestled until there was no wrestling anymore. So killer for sure, but hopefully it will be back to normal sooner rather than later.
Well, Peter, thanks for joining us. Some other people have questions for you, but we'll get you on here by yourself.
Well, how much time do you have? I can answer a couple quick ones. So I'll give you 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, Daniel wants to know the highlights of both of your guys' wrestling careers.
Mine is right now talking to Devin Nicholson.
Mine was definitely last year working for POW at Schützenplatz. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Schützenplatz.
Yeah. When we had won the women's titles and the venue was sold out, it was packed, it was incredible. And I'll never, ever forget that feeling. It was one of the most surreal, incredible nights ever, just because the crowd was on fire in a different country, legendary venue, legendary workers in the locker room. Probably my top favorite for sure.
For me, I'm going to say it was winning the British heavyweight title from Robbie Brookside in 2007. And we were at the Liverpool Empire Theatre. It was sold out, so 2,500, 3,000. And it was just Robbie Brookside is so good that he made me look like friggin' Eddie Guerrero in there. I didn't even know what we were doing half the time. I had him in holds that I didn't know he put himself in. So that would have been a highlight to me. But more so afterwards, when I won, I was told I was winning the belt that night, and most of us like, okay, it's just does it pay anymore? Is one more thing to carry my bag? It's sometimes it's a pain in the ass. But then afterwards, I started researching a little the history of that title, and to have my name on that piece of history means a lot to me. So that would be about it.
And there's a bunch of fans that want to know, and you answered this. And by the way, there's a 2 or 3 part shoot interview with Brody Steele on this channel that he allowed us to post that I suggest people look up. But maybe you could do a quicker answer version of this. Why didn't it work out with you in WWE with your monstrous size? And you can move very well for your size. You can cut promos. You seem to have been like the perfect person they would have wanted.
Well, a couple things. I'd say there was a perfect storm against me in the sense that right when I was trying to get in there, they had just hired Brock Lesnar and Batista. So, and at the time I had long hair. So, I kind of resembled Triple H in a way. I just don't think at the time they were looking for another monster. And I also didn't pursue it as much as I probably should have. When I was told you got to call back every Tuesday, I was like, I'm wrestling every Tuesday. I was wrestling 350 times a year. I didn't really relish the idea of making long distance phone calls. And I thought, if you want me, you know where to find me. So I probably earned maybe 10% of what I could have had I gone there. But had I gone there, maybe they only would have kept me 6 months, maybe I'd be a multimillionaire. I don't know. I mean, I think if I'd have pursued it a little harder, I probably could have got in. But at the same time, they just hired Brock Lesnar and Batista, who they had already invested a lot of money in. They're around my size, and I thought that at that time they were kind of shifting towards the John Morrisons and I think they only wanted a few big guys and wanted to really get into the flippity floppity guys. But whatever. To be honest, I try not to have a lot of regrets. I wish that I'd have signed for a couple of years, as I'm sure you do, Devin, and I'm sure you do as well. But well, you still will, Devin. You still can too. You're only in your 30s, aren't you?
I am, yes, but I'm actually happy doing this. Less control. Although the big money, if it was a Brock Lesnar size contract, fine, but not a development contract.
Yeah.
But John wants to know if you ever wrestled Grado over in the UK.
Never met him. But I was in it. See, he was always in Scotland, and I was usually down south. So I watched what he did though, and he because British wrestling was kind of going down at that time, and he brought that character aboard, and he basically turned Scotland from a non-entity to a huge touring country. So yeah, I don't know him. I don't know much about him. I've heard that he's a good guy from the people that know him well. But and I'm not a big fan of that type of style, to be honest. What I've seen, I'm not a big fan of. But it doesn't matter what I'm a fan of, because that guy was putting 3,000 and 4,000 people into buildings that weren't getting 100 people a couple months before. So something worked. So fair play to him.
And what happened with you in Puerto Rico? From what I understand, IWA was going to give you a big monster push, but was it just that you got sick or something the first couple weeks?
Yeah, well, the first night, my heart went in the ring. So I was, they gave me CPR in the back room. And funnily enough, Invader, the prick that killed Bruiser Brody, was still on one knee. They couldn't fit the blood pressure thing around my arm. So they had to cut my boots off and put it around my ankle. And they're giving me oxygen. Then they told me, we think you've had a heart attack. And Invader was on one knee. He says to me, amigo, can you still do the run-in? It's like, I can't do the fucking, I think I'm dying here. No, I'm going to have to miss the run-in. So he wanted me to go and get hit by about 10 steel chairs. So Mike Hughes got to do it instead.
Yeah, Mike.
But no, they were going to give me and Mike a huge push. And Mike still got the push, but I think if I'd have stayed, it would have been better, because we worked well. We were part of a group of Savio and like the big heel group, La Famille, and I think as a tag, I think we would have done really well there. So but shit happens. Turns out it wasn't a heart attack though. They got when I got home, they said we have no idea what it was. So I just stayed home. I stayed home for about a month, and then I went to England, where I prefer England over Puerto Rico personally.
I remember I was there probably 2 years after you, and they were still talking about you in Puerto Rico.
Oh, yeah.
Daniel wants to know, where in England have you wrestled? I guess the better question is, where in England haven't you wrestled? And this might be for both of you.
Probably nowhere.
You've been everywhere.
Yeah. I wrestle a lot on more of like towards the east of England. But I guess it's really hard to say, isn't it? Just little one-off shows everywhere. But haven't wrestled in like Leeds or Manchester yet. And I think those are two places that I'd like to wrestle.
As far, I know you're really close with Brian Dixon, Peter, and I guess he stopped running this year. What is the scene like over there?
It's dead. I think there's the odd show going on, but Dixon has shut down operations for the year, and so that's a lot of halls not being used, and 700 shows not being promoted.
I believe that LDN is doing some work over there at the minute, and I know that the Knight family were trying really hard to keep their business up and running, and they did a pretty good job, to be fair. But all the camps this year were canceled, so it was a very different environment in England for sure.
And this is a question that I'm sure the Maritime fans want to ask Peter. I mean, you and Renee, who I'm friends with both of you, you guys had your behind the scenes issues over the years. What finally made you guys like put the water under the bridge, and now you guys are on speaking terms again, from what I understand?
I was in a show in Norwich where Maddie lives, and he was on the show. And life's too short to hold grudges, you know. What the past is the past. We're grown men now. Jesus Christ, I'm an old man, and he's almost a middle-aged man. So we just I think we both knew it was just time to shake hands, and that doesn't mean that he's not going to be at my house for Christmas and vice versa. But if we can coexist, we can get along. I actually really respect what Renee's done for a career. I was I'm glad you mentioned him, because I've heard people through the years kind of bash Renee in the sense that, you know, oh, he had all these opportunities and blah, blah, blah. Well, the guy was in WWE for what, 7 years? If we can't consider that a success, he made more money than anyone else ever in the Maritimes wrestling. And he's still getting high profile bookings and doing well. He keeps himself in shape. He's a great worker. So it really, I mean, professionally, nothing negative can be said about the man.
Yeah, I mean, he feuded with John Cena. He held the tag team titles twice. That's a pretty successful career. I'll give one last question to Peter, because I know he's a busy man, and this is one from one of your guys' buddies. Why was being a member of the firm the greatest accomplishment of your career, Pete? Never mind. This was for
Maddie.
For Maddie.
Yeah, we did that question earlier. Did they write it again?
I guess they wrote it again. Well, to close off with Peter, then where can people follow you on social media? I know you're strong on Facebook. Do you have anywhere else people can?
Facebook. I have an Instagram account, but damned if I know what to do. I'm never.
I haven't taught him that
yet. Yeah. I've got a fan page on Facebook, Brody Steele, professional wrestler. So I would look that up. When the world opens up again and we get our freedoms back, then I'll start announcing dates.
Excellent. Well, you're definitely a maritime wrestling legend, and I wish the world would know more about you as far as the U.S., but your career is not over yet internationally. So keep up the good work and keep up that grip strength, because I saw that video or the picture of you doing.
There it is.
What is that? Maybe you could tell us, like, what your technique is there for that training your grip.
Well, funnily enough, just 2 days ago, I attempted a 260-pound one-hand deadlift with a the end of the barbell, the Olympic dumbbells, Olympic barbell, so the thick side, the slippery side. So the world record in that is only a little over 300. So I put I can't remember if it was 260 or 270. And I put that on, and I did one easy rep with each hand. So I might give a go at that record. But also I'm working on pinch power. So it's kind of that muscle in your hand, the thumb muscle. So I take two plates, metal plates, and place them facing in together with the smooth side out. The rubber plates don't work; they have to be metal. And then you just trying to figure out what my hands are on the camera here. You just pick it up like this, just with the pressure of your hand, and lift it off the ground. And the 45-pound plates, there's only a handful of people in the world that can do that. I did it 15 years ago, but I can't quite do it now. But within a couple of months, I'll be doing it. The 35-pound plates I can hold for about 25 seconds now. So I'm real close.
In other words, you could explode somebody's face with a punch with that the side of your hands.
Well, it takes me about 5 minutes to train my grip at the end of a workout. So it's not time consuming. It's easy. It's fun. And I like to have daily challenges. So I always time myself in these grip things that I do. So I've got I'm always trying to beat it by 1 second, and I try to beat it by 1 second every time. And eventually I'll be putting up some good numbers.
Very good. I'm going to have to start training that. Well, I thank you a lot for dropping in. There's a bunch of fans that also say they appreciate you dropping in. So keep up the great work over there.
Yeah, no problem. It was good talking to you, Devin, and hopefully we'll get together after Christmas and maybe have you on a show.
Yeah, we're looking at covering one of the Maritime events for the Hannibal TV one of these days. So hopefully that can work out once this craziness ends.
Yeah. Okay, buddy.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem. I'll
Can we
leave
get
it
a
with you.
bicep pose from you?
Wrong way.
Nice.
There we go.
I don't know if the camera's big enough.
Cheers, pal.
Thanks. So Maddison, we were just talking to Pete about why it didn't work out for him in WWE. Obviously, you're in your early 20s. Very good chance you can still sign, but you did have one tryout with WWE, I believe. Could you fill us in on what happened and how you got that tryout?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of getting the tryout, I it was a bit random, to be honest, and I was only filled in that I believe that Asylum may have put my name forward. That's the only kind of hints I've heard. Aside from that, haven't really heard too much about how that happened. In terms of going there, it was amazing. It was so cool. Very, very grateful to be there. I didn't do as well as I thought I was going to, but I just wasn't prepared at the time. I wasn't in a great state mentally. And I remember thinking when I got the notice for the tryout, I was like, this is a really random time for this to happen in my life. And I was like, at the time, I was like, I just wish it wasn't now, because I knew I wasn't ready. But then I was like, okay, I have to change that mindset. I just have to go in, give it my all, and do it. But I do think it showed that I wasn't ready. But I'm so young, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity that I actually got to get my name out there and be there and go. And hopefully, again, soon in the future, that I will get another chance to do that.
Was that the Canadian WWE tryout in Toronto that they did last year?
Yeah. Yeah.
From what I understand, I don't think they signed anyone from that. And,
no. I think it was probably more of just a trial, because I know there was obviously rumors about NXT Canada, obviously they have NXT UK. So I personally think that they just kind of probably did it here to see who they had for talent, who they had for kind of potential. I believe that's probably what they were doing. But yeah, I don't, not that I've heard that anyone's gotten signed off that tryout.
Yeah, because I mean, nothing against this guy, but they had a guy that like supposedly was going through cancer chemotherapy. It's like, God bless him, but they're not going to sign anyone like that. So it seemed like it was looking for future talent and also a publicity thing, because it was SummerSlam weekend. Did you see Lady Yasmin from Great North Wrestling with that tryout? Because I know.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on her, because she's really popular on this channel?
Oh, bless her. She's just such a sweet girl, to be honest. That's like, we didn't have a whole lot of interaction, but very, very nice, very sweet girl.
Well, maybe that could be a future match in Great North Wrestling. And Bianca Corelli, who I'm friends with, Santino's daughter, she was actually supposed to wrestle for us before the lockdown, but she got her eye busted open.
Yeah, she's incredible, man. The stuff that she does, she's like one of those people that her and I are around the same age. I'm like, God, she's just so good, everything she does all her like extra stuff, her commercials, all that stuff. She's in incredible shape now. That girl's got it. There's no way that she's not going to get signed. She's phenomenal.
And of course, since we're talking about our company here, Great North Wrestling, girls that compete for us, Lufisto is the current women's champion of our company. Any thoughts on Lufisto?
I think in terms of Lufisto, I think in terms of indie wrestling, that she's someone who she has done so much for women's wrestling, and she has done so much for the business. I've never gotten to wrestle her. She's someone that I would absolutely love to wrestle in the future. I follow her a lot on social media. I have so much respect for her. And like I said, she's just done so much, She's always fought for equal opportunities and all that good stuff. So, so much respect for her.
Frank wants to know how much you can squat.
Oh, God. I have no idea, to be honest. Gyms have been closed in England now for a while, and I had surgery. Oh my God, I don't even know. I think that time that I squatted was probably only like 130 pounds or something. I don't know. To be honest, no idea.
Eddie wants to know, what's your best match that people can look up on YouTube if they want to check you out on YouTube?
So I would definitely say on YouTube, probably Maddison Miles versus Kobe Christ. If you go on my channel, it's just Maddison Miles. In the video section, if you look at the most popular, it's number one with like 7 million views. That's definitely probably my best and my favorite match on there.
7 million views. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, super cool. That is the one where I get my major concussion, though. So I don't know if it's because it's a great match or because that's where I get my concussion. But 7 million views is 7 million views, right?
Simon Ritchie, I like your profile picture there, Clockwork Orange. He wants to know if you saw the Dark Side of the Ring Fabulous Moolah episode and what you thought about it.
I haven't actually seen any of Dark Side of the Ring yet. For the last few months, we've literally just had Netflix, nothing else. And I'm really someone who I don't enjoy watching stuff on my phone. But since coming back to Canada, my dad, I believe, has it recorded. So that was actually on our bucket list when we came home, was to watch it.
Eddie wants to know what match made you the happiest.
What match made me the happiest? I wrestled. I would probably say maybe for happiest. Last year IHW did a women's tournament. At the time we had sold out the venue. I ended up, going over in the tournament, but the night itself was just absolutely so incredible. I have 3 fantastic matches. Everybody I love, everybody I look up to was there. All of my family, all of my friends in wrestling. And I just remember that night after the show, like I was just on fire. The feelings I had, the happiness, everything like that. So I would just say the women's tournament in a whole, but that just whole night was incredible. But that's the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of that question.
Somebody asked earlier who are some of the famous female wrestlers you've been in the ring with so far?
In the ring with so far, Victoria. She completely slipped my mind, to be honest. Victoria is probably the most famous female that I've been in the ring with. Other indie girls, like I said, Caitlin Diamond, Zandra Bale, Kelly Klein, Ray Lynn, but definitely Victoria is probably the most famous girl I've been in the ring with. She was absolutely incredible to work with. Loved it so much fun, and such an honor. It's crazy.
Daniel Smith wants to know if you could give him a shout out.
Hi, Daniel. Hope you're enjoying it.
I guess as far as you going back to England, it's going to depend on when the lockdown restrictions end.
Yeah, so I live over in England right now. I'm on a visa there, but at the moment, so we were supposed to go home on the 24th of November, and England went back into lockdown, and then we switched our flights again. So now I'm here until mid-December, but mid-December, everything looks good. The airlines have just confirmed our flights and all that stuff. So unless something drastic happens, I'll be going back around mid-December. So hoping that it does, because I love it here, but England's my home at the moment for sure.
And I noticed you're using the high term that's popular over there too. When I first started talking to you today, I remember the Butlins. People would use that all the time. Yeah,
it's really bad. I just have that, if anyone here watches Friends, and there's an episode where Ross is giving the lecture, and he's trying to be British, and then his like American accent and it's just combined is awful, and that's literally what I sound like all the time now. Everyone makes fun of me, or everyone takes the piss out of me for saying really British stuff. I don't even notice that I do it, to be honest, but I guess that's what living in another country for 14 months gets you. I just sound silly all the time.
Isban wants to know if you've ever met Alundra Blaze, aka Medusa.
No, I haven't. I was supposed to meet her this year at Cauliflower Alley Club, but that was canceled.
I think I saw you wrestle last year at Cauliflower Alley Club. It's coming back to me now. Did you wrestle last year there?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay. I might actually have some footage of that match. Fart Doctor wants to know if you would accept a match against Thunder Rosa and what's your thoughts on her.
Absolutely, I would. Absolutely. She's another one. She's just phenomenal. I don't think I haven't really been around her that much, but I do watch a lot of her stuff online, and I would absolutely love it. From what I've heard, she's a great person, so accept it totally.
And there was a fan on here earlier. I didn't get to ask his question. He wanted to know if there's any past female wrestling stars that don't wrestle anymore, that if you could have a match theoretically, like maybe it's a Rockin' Robin or a Fabulous Moolah or someone that's retired now, who would it be?
Who would it be? That's a really good question, actually. Never really thought about it. To be honest, I feel like my brain just always kind of, like I said, it just goes right back to Trish and Lita all the time. I would say probably one of them for sure. And that's not even like that, far back, but I would still, that's where my brain goes right away.
Well, I think Lita is permanently retired due to her injury, so she counts. Kayla, we actually have a female watching, one of our 12% female viewers. What's it like passing your knowledge on to students in the Maritime?
Oh, it's honestly so incredible. And I always say, I don't have the most seniority. I don't have the most knowledge ever. But I'm just so eager to help people and kind of pass on the things that they've helped me with. I've always kind of been a natural leader. So to me, passing on that knowledge is so incredible. I just love every second of it. It's so empowering and amazing.
Terry says, will you marry him? He doesn't even have a picture on here.
Amazing. Well, unfortunately, I'm happily taken, but maybe someday. I'm just kidding.
Walter wants to know, have you ever met William Regal?
Years ago when I was a child. I was probably like 10 or 11 years old, but yeah.
And as far as NXT UK, Walter wants to know if you follow that product.
I did kind of when it first started, but I haven't been following it that much recently. We just moved and we don't have the network and we don't have cable, so it's a little bit harder to follow. It's more, if I follow it at all, it's just kind of through Instagram more so now, I'd say.
As far as there was a question earlier, I mean, I don't even think Playboy exists anymore, but somebody says, would you ever do Playboy if you were in WWE?
Probably not. Probably not.
And I was actually going to bring this up, but a fan brought it up. Your thoughts on the British Bulldog, and why not also ask about Davey Boy Smith Jr., who looks like next year he'll be rejoining one of the top companies, from what I understand. He's our champion right now in our company here, Great North Wrestling.
I think, to be honest, there's nothing more to say than they're just legendary, aren't they? They're a legendary family. Harry's a wonderful person. Met him a few times. He's always been very, very kind to me. I just always think their success is amazing. The name is just known. Their success is known. Definitely look up to them for sure. Great people. They're just legendary, aren't they?
Carlos Gambino asks, "What's your favorite WrestleMania match you've watched?"
Favorite WrestleMania match. Gosh, it's so difficult to say. To be honest, I really, 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 really enjoyed Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. I know it's like so, in the times, but I just loved it, honestly.
What do you think of Selena Vega's release last week over, I guess she's making more money on social media, so she didn't want to close her account. So she got fired. They were warned about it, and she chose.
I had heard that she had gotten fired, but to be honest, I haven't really been following it that much. I do always feel for anyone who gets released, right? I mean, it's the biggest company in the world, so anytime that someone's released, it's really unfortunate for them. But she's very popular. She's a good wrestler, so I'm sure that she'll do fantastic things.
Thoughts on Ronda Rousey, a fan is asking. Any thoughts on Ronda Rousey? Supposedly she's back training to get back in the ring again.
I didn't even know that. I think what's really cool about Rousey is you train someone in a sport that they grow up in, they train, they do it. That's what their body knows. And it's not easy switching to another sport. So absolute mad respect to her for being able to do that, for sure. I just really, really cool, I think.
Dave wants to know, what was it like wrestling James Ellsworth?
It was good. To be honest, it was easy. You know, a lot of people talk about Ellsworth, and the way that they talk about it, my kind of experience wasn't that much different. But the match itself was easy. Everything was fine. Match was safe. So it was really cool. Crowd loved it.
As far as AEW, Daniel wants to know what are your thoughts on AEW?
I think it's really cool how, you know, everyone at the end of the day kind of took a stand, and they're like, you know, we're going to create this product that we love and that the people that we love, you know. I'd love to go there. I'd love to be a part of it. I just think what they're doing is really great. I think the kind of diversity they have there is fantastic. I think it's wonderful, personally.
What are your thoughts on Paige, who I guess she was the victim of a home invasion last week, but overall thoughts on her and her movie and so forth?
To be honest, so like I work with the Knight family a lot now, and the family themselves are just incredible people. They're phenomenal. Paige, it's really unfortunate for the things that she's been through and the things that she's had to deal with. But, you know, at the end of the day, the girl made history. You know, she, in her run in WWE, she did so much that no matter what, now she's going to go down in history as a legend, you know. And I'm sure it all stems back to the fact of how great her family is. And I'm very honored that I get to work with them a lot now.
And as far as social media, if people want to look you up, I know you're on Facebook.
Yeah,
where can people follow you?
Facebook. So Maddison Miles on Facebook. My Facebook page is also Maddison Miles Professional Wrestler. I'm not a huge Twitter person, but Twitter is just Maddison.Miles. Instagram, Maddison.Miles. And my YouTube channel is just Maddison Miles. All really straightforward and easy.
Well, excellent. Thanks for joining us. And we got a bit of a treat there with Brody Steele.
Yeah,
jumping in.
Dropped over. I'm just seeing now that he just dropped over the posters for a student show. So
very good.
There.
Let's give this show another plug for people that are just joining us.
Now I feel like Pete not knowing where to show the camera. So like I said, we have our women's tag match. So me and Jana versus Chantel and Mia. And then this is our guest match for the show for wrestlers with more seniority, Kirk Bay and Winston. And then, like I said, we have our first ever Maritime Wrestling Academy Championship, which is going to be really cool. We have Bailey Blaze and Sam Shields. Like I said, two absolutely hardworking students. And then we've got some guests on the show like Kobe Christ and then some more students. So like I said, absolutely fantastic. That's December 10th at the Moncton Lions Club. Everybody's been working really hard, and I think it's so important to support the new students coming up. Get your wrestling fix. You know, it's so important, I think, to support local wrestling and to support the people that are coming up. If you want to get tickets, you can get them at the door, $12 each, or you can private message me, or if you know any of the students personally, they all have tickets on them as well.
Now, I love to put people on the spot on this channel. Could you close this interview off by giving us a promo for your match December 10th at the Moncton Lions Club?
Oh, no. Well, to be honest, the thing is, so at the end of the day, you know, I'm the sensational Maddison Miles. I rule this territory, and I'm picked the best student that I could possibly find, Jana Lee. She's big, she's strong, she's tough, she's smart. And you have little tiny Mia Malik and Chantel. They don't stand a chance. That was awful.